all, the News Nation is following Herman Cain's expected next move. In about 3 hours, 5 p.m. Eastern time to be exact, Cain will respond to his latest accuser, Sharon Bilek, the first woman to publicly accuse Cain of sexual harassment. She also alleges Cain tried complying with the unwanted advance, implying that she could get a job if she went ahead with his flirtations. Cain will hold his news conference at a Scottsdale Plaza in Phoenix, Arizona. The question, will Cain follow the attack line from his campaign staff, going after the woman by painting her as a person motivated by financial problems? Joining me now via Skype is NBC News campaign embed reporter Andrew Rafferty. So, Andrew, what do we know about this news conference? What is the setup? Will Herman Cain actually take questions?
Well, yes, Cameron, what we saw today was an early press release with the Cain campaign essentially shooting down the credibility of Sharon Bilek. It cited those 6 instances of civil court suits that she's been party to while living outside of Chicago, Illinois, and we should expect to hear a similar storyline today at that press conference, with really an attack on the credibility of this 4th accuser who has come public.
Andrew, we know that Cain was on with Jimmy Kimmel last night. Let me play a little clip of what happened on that show last night.
All things considered, I'm still alive. It got off to somewhat of a rough start. We had a little surprise to show up on TV.
Yeah. Did you watch that? Were you watching?
Yeah, we watched it because we didn't even know that this whole thing about woman number 4 was going to even come out.
So we saw Herman Cain try to keep control, even trying to appear upbeat, chuckling off the top there, Andrew. We know, though, he's had some pretty tense moments with reporters when pressed about this. I am intrigued by the strategy of going after this woman and saying that she's in financial peril or even had a bankruptcy in her history as a motivation there. Some people say that this is Cain blaming the victim. Do we know if he's going to push that line?
Well, we certainly expect it would be odd if he didn't, and after his campaign sent out that release earlier today. But it's also been, the narrative has been an attack on the media, as you know, and really turning it around, showing that this actually, he's raised $2 million since this story broke. And an appeal last night to supporters asked the goal, he wanted to raise $999,000 on November 9th, of course, keeping along with that 9 symbolism. So we're going to see that he's going to say that shows strength, that the voice of the people is stronger than the voice of the media, and also go after his detractors and the liberal media for trying to push what they call is just a cheap shot at Herman Cain. This whole narrative about these sexual assaults or sexual harassment charges.
All right, Andrew. Andrew, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. Now let's bring in the News Nation political panel today. Nationally syndicated radio talk show host Michael Smerconish, also an MSNBC contributor. Holly Bailey is a senior political reporter for Yahoo News, and Mo Elleithee is a former Hillary Clinton campaign spokesperson. Michael, I'll start off with you. I haven't had a chance to chat with you about this since the big news conference held by this woman and her attorney, Gloria Allred. What do you make of the strategy with Herman Cain and his staffers to kind of dig up, if you will, information, or some would see it as dirt, on this woman as a counter strategy?
Well, he's dug himself in so deep, so quickly and so far. I don't know what else he could do at this juncture. Perhaps there are some who are watching this and thinking that other women will be fearful, to the extent there are other women out there with such claims. Do they really now want to come forward and get in the midst of this? I have a different reaction, which is to say I think it's entirely possible that women 1, 2, 3, and 4, if I'm adding correctly, because I think we're up to 5 now, they may look at this and be so appalled and aghast on behalf of the woman who came forward yesterday that they may say, what the hell, I'm going to get out there in front of a camera and now I am going to tell my story, and look out if that happens.
Holly, let me bring you in on this. Obviously, a lot of this dynamic is how people might perceive this. This woman alleges that this happened many years ago. It can be seen as a he said, she said in this case, because there's not a financial settlement. She can't say, well, listen, the company paid me, so obviously there was something going on here. As a woman, and you're observing this as a journalist as well, is there the potential here. I mean, the quicksand for Herman Cain to really alienate women voters with how he goes after this woman who's accusing him of this.
Well, I think that's a danger not just with women voters, but all voters. I mean, the one thing that Herman Cain has really had going for him throughout this entire drama is that it really hasn't taken a hit with him because people still like him. And that's what's really been driving his campaign. People like him. And so if there's, any hint of,
yeah, they liked him before we heard the, and again,
right.
NBC News has not independently confirmed this woman's allegations. However, we've seen the replay of that tape when she claims Herman Cain touched her, not just had flirtations, but physically touched her in her allegations.
Yeah, and so if there's any bit of belief among voters that that might be true, or even, the fact that the campaign came out today and attacked her so personally, if that, in any way alienates people or turns people off, that's a real danger for his campaign.
All right, Mo, let me bring you in. Politico has an article. It's headline, GOP urges Cain to address accusations. There is a concern amongst conservatives in the party that the longer this plays out, it distracts from the candidates, including Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, whom may ever ascend to the top there, and that this benefits President Obama because these guys can't talk about their policies or how they would improve this country because everyone's talking about Herman Cain.
Well, I think it's true that neither Herman Cain nor any of the other Republican candidates are able to break through with any real message at this point, and that's a big problem for his campaign and for the entire party. That advice made sense a week and a half ago. When the story first broke, I guess a little over a week ago. He needed to get out in front of it. He needed to do this press conference, then stay till every last question was asked and answered. But I got to tell you, it may be too late. And while his standing in the polls right now hasn't been affected, you got to believe that the longer this conversation goes on, it will begin to impact him. Herman Cain's rise has been really driven by the strength of his personality, but we've seen numerous personalities from Herman Cain since this whole thing began, and that's going to hurt him.
And speaking of personalities, Michael, let me bring you back in and talk about Rick Perry. He has a big personality, came out with a lot of support, and now he's, if you will, at the bottom of the barrel trying to climb his way out. He spent up $500,000 on airtime in Iowa here. Is it over for him? Is he now just an SNL, the butt of the joke?
I think it probably is over for him, and I think in the same way that you had, first of all, a lot of attention on Trump, and then he never got in. Bachmann was a flavor of the month, then it was Perry, now it's Cain. There's something in this, Tamron, that's not favorable toward Mitt Romney, because each time that you have these alternatives to Romney who have bursts of energy and support and then they flame out, to me it's a continual reminder that these are people who are unsettled with just jumping over to the front runner.
Yeah, so
why is that the case?
And Michael, what does that say about the Republican voters out there? You've got this one radio personality quoted in a Wall Street Journal article saying that on her radio show in Iowa, quote, I almost never get people commenting about Rick Perry. No one's even talking about him on conservative radio, she said.
Right. I think that's the case. And I think that these are also some hardcore conservatives who are just uncomfortable with Romney and looking for an alternative, even as those primary and caucus dates draw near.
Right. And Mo, let me bring you back in and transition to the president's numbers. In the Midwest, he's showing weakness. 56% of independents disapprove of the president's job, 57% of suburban residents, and 52% of Midwest voters. However, in African-American households, at least in this poll, 91% support the president. We know that African Americans were significant in getting the president in the White House. What do you make of this landscape, this dichotomy here? In the Midwest, are these voters in the suburbs? He's down with African Americans, despite some of the things we've seen at the Congressional Black Caucus town halls, where they were angry at the president for not taking action in the way that some of those lawmakers wanted to see, that he remains high.
Yeah, well, I think fundamentally what the environment that we're in right now says that people are frustrated with Washington generally. They're frustrated with the direction of the country. They're frustrated with the economy. But and that's reflected in the president's job approval. It's even reflected even more so in the job approval of Congress and the Republican Party. But in the head-to-head matchup, he continues to lead. It's even widening a tiny bit, and that's because elections are contests. They don't like the other choice.
And to that point, Holly, let me bring you in quickly. In these same polls, polls, it shows in head-to-head matchups, President Obama defeating all of the Republican candidates, even though he is struggling with independent voters and folks in the Midwest.
I think this is why this is going to be a turnout game. I mean, no doubt the Obama campaign is really happy to see the numbers among African-American voters today, but this is really about turning out people that voted for him, 4 years ago.
Getting them motivated.
Yes.
All right, Holly, thank you so much. Mo, thank you. And of course, Michael, thank you as well.
Thanks.
Thanks.
By the way, CNBC's Maria Bartiromo and John Harwood